linked, I seem to get all of the events, and today was no different. Today was the Microsoft Windows.
You know what, guys? We read your comments. We really do. And in our GTX 950 launch video, many of you commented that you're better off saving for a GTX 970 instead. It's a great video card for around $330, but that's still quite a lot of money for many gamers out there. So in this video, we're gonna answer the age-old question that has plagued mankind for thousands, or at least for about, I don't know, 10 years. Should you save up for a GTX 970 or buy a GTX 950 now and add another one later? So the GTX 950 is a great entry-level gaming graphics card that's efficient enough for most people to upgrade to without having to get a new power supply. Yay! It comes in at around $170, and it's powerful enough to play even AAA titles like Grand Theft Auto 5 or Metal Gear Solid 5 smoothly at medium to high settings at 1080p. Now, obviously, it's not as good as a GTX 970, but we know that not everyone can simply, throw down $350 for a graphics card all at once. For some people out there, you might need to spread the money out a bit and upgrade your system down the road. Or maybe you're just not that sure about fully committing to PC gaming. After all, $170 is a lot easier to justify than $350 if you don't know if you're going to use it all the time. So let's go over the pros and cons of going with two GTX 950s in SLI versus a single 970. First, let's look at our test bench. Since the Maxwell architecture is pretty efficient, Anthony decided to go with an ultra-quiet setup. The case is a fractal design to Fine R5 with all the phone inserts installed. Yeah, all the foam. And the noise dampening side panel on the side. Inside, we've got an MSI Z170A gaming M7 motherboard, 16 gigs of HyperX Predator DDR4 memory, an Intel Skylake 6700K Core i7 processor, an Intel 750 series NVMe SSD, and a Noctua NHD15 CPU cooler. For our video cards, we've got the MSI Twin Frozer GTX 970 and two 950s. These cards have a very effective Twin Frozer cooler, hence the name, that features a 0 RPM fan mode so that they're completely silent when under idle and light workloads. Even under full load in games or a stress test like Furmark, they stay very quiet with the side panels closed. They don't run that hot either, peaking at just 62 degrees. The MSI motherboard is partly to thank as well, since it provides an additional slot between the cards for better airflow. Powering everything, we've got Enermax's new DigiFanless 550 watt power supply that's rated at 80 plus platinum efficiency. With no fan at all and fully sleeved cables, it's a pretty badass looking little unit. We've seen a lot of people try to build quiet systems while using cheap power supplies with crappy fans in them, so make sure you don't make that same mistake. This one even has digital temperature and power usage monitoring through their software. The software doesn't let you do much, but you can measure those things. So finally, how does gaming performance compare? We ran the cards through 3D Mark's Firestrike Extreme, Metal Gear Solid 5, The Witcher 3, and Grand Theft Auto 5 to get a sampling of how you might expect these cards to handle different loads. In Firestrike Extreme, our GTX 970 got a score of around 5370, and the GTX 950s, well, 5351. Wow, so close! We saw a similar trend in the game benchmarks as well. Both cards maintained 60 FPS minimum at 1080p with all settings maxed in MGS5. In Witcher 3 and GTA 5, the GTX 950s were actually anywhere from 10 to 15% faster across an average of 3 runs each, which just goes to show how effectively SLI scales with the current generation of cards. There was no micro stutter that Anthony could detect, and two 950s don't use that much more power than a single 970. Plus, if you're into making your system just kind of look badass, it's hard to beat two video cards side by side. But you might be asking yourself, well, that sounds great, Linus, but what are the downsides? Well, it's kind of like RAM. If you fill up all your slots now, then it's harder to upgrade your system with other things in the future. It also adds some weight, making your system less portable, and this is something Anthony completely forgot to put in the script, but the GTX 950 only has 2 gigs of VRAM, which means when you put 2 of them in, you got 4 gigs of VRAM, just like the 970. Wrong! You do not. you effectively have only 2 gigabytes of VRAM, the amount on one card. So if you want to crank up your textures, or you want to play games like, Shadow of Mordor that inherently use a lot of VRAM, you might want to use a 970 instead. So let us know, what would you do? Would you get a single GTX 970 or a pair of 950s and SLI? Let us know in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe for more videos like this from NCIX, and you can click
Dual 970.
here for our Twitters and click here to keep watching if you need more.
It's the other way around.
Anthony gestured for me.
Is it? Oh, it is.
Way to go, Anthony. Polishing a turd. Am I literally gonna stand here and polish a turd? No, of course not. I'm going to figuratively polish a turd. We're talking about upgrading a pre-built system from an OEM manufacturer. And maybe I'm being a bit mean calling them turds, but let's face it, if you didn't build it yourself, or buy it from a high quality system integrator, like NCIX, see I got that logo on my shirt, then it might be a turd. PC gaming is fun, but unfortunately, not everyone can afford to go the route of building an entire brand new PC from scratch. I mean, it's a good idea. It gives you a solid and reliable foundation that you can upgrade in the future, but it's just not always possible. So today, we'll be looking at upgrading an existing system for gaming. Casual, work grade systems, office grade systems that you buy pre-built off the shelf from large, tier 1 manufacturers. Sometimes they need a little bit of help to be ready for even games like League of Legends if you want to play them at decent detail settings. So most of these systems come with pretty good CPUs actually, but their graphics cards, if they have them at all, are often not up to the task of, PCMR level gaming. So the obvious solution is to upgrade with a better video card, right? Right? Hold on. Not quite that simple. There's a few requirements that we'll need to go over before we can just run out and buy a video card and slap it in there. First of all, you need to make sure that your motherboard is actually compatible. You need to find out the motherboard's model number, even pre-built systems will have them, and figure out if it has a compatible PCI Express 16X slot. Ideally, PCIe version 3, but the good news about PCI Express is that it's actually backwards compatible all the way from 1 to 3 and forwards compatible. So don't stress too much about that. If your motherboard doesn't have a PCI Express slot, it's probably pretty old or pretty horrible, and you should probably not use it. Next, you will need a power supply that's powerful enough to support whatever video card you want to put in, and all the other components. If you're not sure about power supply specs, you can take a look at this video here. Odds are, though, that most power supplies are enough for an entry-level graphics card like a GTX 750 Ti. Make sure you have enough wattage and amperage on the 12-volt rail. The specs for your graphics card will spell this out. And physical connectors to power whatever card you want to use. Try to avoid using adapters, as that's often a sign that your power supply isn't powerful enough or not designed for a dedicated graphics card, which is often the case because why would that system builder put in a power supply that's designed for upgrading if they really don't expect the audience for that computer to ever upgrade it? Finally, you need to make sure that your case actually fits a new video card, physically fits. If your case is not a standard ATX size, but a half width or small form factor, then the odds are pretty good that you are out of luck. Good gaming graphics cards are usually at least 100.
Or not. Wow, that was fail.